Welcome to the A Better Way Athletics podcast, where our mission is simple. We want to help restore the joy. I love that word, joy. Restore the joy of sport for parents, for coaches, and then for the athletes whom we say we care so much about. And I know that so many of us out there listening truly do care about those athletes. So today, we want to help you. We want to give you some insight, some tools, maybe even just some encouragement to do it better. And today's guest is an unbelievable man in every regard. This guy has so much wisdom. I can't wait for him to drop some bombs on us today. But all the way from Nashville, Tennessee, grew up in Indiana, in Nashville, Tennessee. Now, this guy he's been on staff at CPA right there in Nashville, Tennessee for 34 years. And I just learned the first coach ever hired and the first AD ever hired. And so just this week, Mike, I was saying, hey, if you want to be a great leader, you got to first be a great follower. So I want to say to Mike Ellson, our guest today, athletic director at CPA right there in Nashville, Tennessee, it's an honor to get to follow you today and learn from you. So thanks so much for being on the show.
Heath, thank you for having me. What a great privilege to get to have a conversation about something that both you and I are passionate about, and that's our student athletes, our coaches, and our parents, because we're all teammates and trying to do this well together.
That's right. And I love that word teammates. And sometimes when we think teammates, we just think the kids that are on the field. And man, there's so many more involved in making what takes place on the field happen. And some of those are coach, parent, and things like that. And so, Mike, you've been in this 34 years. I mean, tons of roles. I mean, you've done everything when it comes to the world of athletics and education. And I believe that's where we have such an opportunity to make a difference in young people's lives. You know, how has the sports world changed from the first day on the job there at CPA as the first coach ever hired to 2020, where we're at today? Tell us about some of the changes, good and bad, that you've seen occur in the sports world.
Well, thank you, Heath. I think one of the first things, and athletic directors that listen to this will resonate, but back in 1987 when I started, we only required one form, and that was a physical form from your doctor signed. And then we were all good. We were legal and protected and ready to go. I think, back in the 80s, you had still the mindset of, the coach and teacher were always right. The parents handed their students over to the educators, to the coaching leaders. And they're like, please help me train my child up. And then there was I felt like a great attitude of gratitude. Like, wow. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your commitment to my child. And that still exists, but I believe it exists now more in pockets than it does permeating throughout our culture. Wow. So that's been, a big change. And for us at CPA, I was hired in the summer of '87 to teach PE. We were a K-8 school. We were adding a grade at a time. And I had been, high school track runner, and actually was cut from basketball for 6 straight years at my high school in Indiana, where the gym seats 10,000. So it's pretty important. And by the way, wrestling is a big deal. A guy named Rex Peckinpah was one of our coaches there at Newcastle. I don't know if that name resonates with you or you know that name, but it was a big wrestling name. But anyway, when I hired, and I'm so grateful to have this job at what I thought was an amazing school. I can't believe I get to be here. I went in, the first week, and first of all, when I was told I was hired, we were going to wait a couple of years to do athletics. And I waited 3 days, and I'm like, can we have a cross-country team? We'll wear our PE uniforms when we run. And I just think from the perspective I was able to gain at 23 years old, we were just thankful to have a team, and the parents were thankful to have a team. And, somehow, some way, we've got to keep that attitude of gratitude of the privilege of getting to play, to getting to be in the huddle, to getting to be coached by great people. We want to fire that message out there and have tentacles that are so far reaching. So anyway, that's a long answer to your question about, what have you seen change? Well, the forms now, what do we have? 8, 9, 10 different forms that you as a parent are
I
signing.
fill it out 4 times. I got 4 kids, so 32, 36 forms for the Esslinger household.
And you better have it before August 1.
Yeah.
You're not even thinking about playing after that date.
Man, well, again, I knew this was going to be the case, but, when you say, one form in 1987, I'm like, wow, how much easier would coaching be if there was just one form?
Yes.
But then you begin to talk about the attitude shift of, you know, mid 80s, late 80s, early 90s. There really was this handing over of the children to the educator to come alongside me as a parent and partner with me. And almost today, it almost seems as if we enter into this as enemies before the battle even ever takes place. And one of the most tragic things to me is as a parent with 4 kids myself, as I look at, man, this battle is real. And there are so many things fighting for the heart of my children. Uh, I need the Mike Elsons, the Coach Elsons in the world to speak life into my daughter and my son. And, I need the Coach Martins and those people to speak life into my children. And so if we could disarm ourselves in some way, shape, or form and know that, hey, although none of us are perfect, we really do want what's best for this child that we're leading, it would almost alleviate so much of the tension that we're facing today.
Well, a couple of things that I think have done a lot of damage is one, the pursuit of a scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
And then tied in directly to that are travel sports. So Kyle Macy played basketball at Kentucky in the NBA, coached at Morehead State for a while. And I saw Kyle at Disney 15 years ago. He was with his family, and I'm like, hey, Kyle, I'd gotten to know him through a parent here. I said, what are you doing here? And he said, well, Mike, I can come to Disney for 2 weeks, bring my family, and do all the recruiting I need to do. So I'm having fun as a coach. I'm fitting inside of the NCAA recruiting calendar, and I get all the recruits I need for my college. And I thought that pretty much sums it up, because in the olden days, if you will, the college coaches in all the sports would go to the high school campuses, lean on the high school coach to say, are they prepared to compete at a NAIA Division III, Division II, Division I level? And so that's gone, and it's gone, because of travel sports. And I think the NCAA had a tough effect on that for all of us. And you can't really blame a Kyle Macy, a college basketball coach, to not go to Disney and get all his recruiting. So that has had a big effect on all of this. And so when you're playing, 78 baseball games after your school season until August in Williamsport in the Little League World Series, those coaches are having so much influence. And then your education-based athletic coach is basically coaching half of those games. So you can see the tussle, the tug of war battle that we're in. And then parents are seeing so many games that it, in their mind, not to their fault, in my opinion, it creates this, I know a lot about the game, or my son or daughter experienced this with this coach. So that expectation carries over into the world of education-based athletics.
And it oftentimes creates false reality. I said, when I played Little League Baseball, it was like 6, 7, and 8-year-old together. So unless you were a phenom at 6 and 7, you were on the pine, which was healthy, and then you went 9, 10, 11. At 9 and 10, I always rode the pine 9, all 3 years in baseball. But then when you got to middle school and you got benched for the first time, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, getting benched is a validation on me as a parent. It's a knock on my child as a human. It was actually just part of the journey. And so oftentimes the systems we utilize today create the things we despise later. And so, I don't blame the coach either. I mean, it just is the system, but, let's not complain about the things it's creating. I also want to talk about, because, one of the things you said is, as parents, like we begin to pursue these things that used to be secondary, but we begin to pursue them so early. I mean, we're like identifying talent at 9 years old. I'm like, listen, we're still teaching the kid basic math. Let's not be projecting his future, just yet. Let's just prepare him. But one of the roots of the issue that I see, Mike, in the parenting world today, and I can be guilty. Listen, I am not preaching at you. I'm talking with you. This is so hard, man. It's so hard. Is that we have shifted from in the early 80s, mid 80s, even the early 90s, and then I think it began to move away from this even more and more, is we've moved as parents from raising our children to worshiping our children.
Mm-hmm.
And when we worship something, we do whatever cost necessary, whatever means necessary to do what's best for them. And I think it does our children a disservice long term. And so, for the parents out there, I just want to challenge you, like, although I know you want what's best for your kid, man, choose to be their parent. It'll make the coach's job easier. It'll make your job long-term easier, because they'll probably end up leaving your household and having their own house someday versus shacking up with you for a long time. We're seeing that more and more. And so there's all these things that we're just battling within this arena of sport that are so good, but they can become really, really dangerous. And I just want to challenge the parents out there for that. It is a privilege to get to play, and it's a privilege to have a man like Mike Ellson leading our children. And wherever your coach is at, make sure you tell that coach, thank you. And so how can we, I mean, you've been an AD for a really long time. You've seen the good, the bad, the indifferent, everything in between. I'm sure you've dealt with some great stuff and some not so great stuff. How do you think, as an administrator, we hire a young coach or we hire a new coach to our organization? How do you think we can better prepare the coaches to lead the young people that they oversee and the parents that are a part of that journey?
Well, the mentor-mentee relationship is so critical, Heath. Scott Carroll and I talk about this. He says that at Cleveland Middle, he's got a buddy system in place where coaches are buddying up with each other to help each other, through the good, the bad, the ugly, if you will. But being a mentor, and then, what's interesting about being a mentor, just because someone's a veteran or has experience doesn't mean they're a great mentor. Or, for me, there's a young coach here, an outstanding coach named Matt Cox, who does a lot of work for us with the TIAAA, and he's our athletics coordinator. Well, Matt is a mentor to me with new technology, with social media. So I think it goes back, there's a book written by Carol Dweck called Mindset. And I think we have to have a growth mindset throughout our lives. And that's one piece of advice that's important for young coaches. Don't come in thinking you know it all because you maybe played the sport, but come in teachable. But if I don't demonstrate that I'm teachable, Heath, then I'm a terrible mentor, honestly. I have to demonstrate that I'm a lifelong learner. If Coach John Wooden from UCLA can say that he was learning at 99 years old after winning all those national championships, I surely can do the same thing. So I think that's an important piece. And the second piece is the coaches have to know that you have their back. So that's a really big challenge. And for an athletic administrator, I like how the Inside Out Initiative, Coach Joe Ehrman talks about an athletic administrator as a middle manager. We have to manage down. We have to manage up. We're literally managing vertically and horizontally, because if we're not communicating to the people that we report to about the importance of supporting the people that we're responsible for, then we're setting them up for failure. So taking time out, being committed, truly committed to having their best interest at hand, not your own, I think is really important. So the mentor-mentee piece, critical.
Man, it's so, and no matter what phase of life you're in or what area of life you're working, that philosophy holds true. I don't care if you're a dad, find another dad that's done it well and latch on. I have a book I want to hopefully get out at some point. It's called The Coach's Cheat Sheet, a coach's guide to sustain success. And the first chapter in there is find a mentor. Find someone that has done it and follow them. I mean, you and I are both faith-based guys. And I mean, that was kind of Jesus's model. He said, hey, if you want to know what to do, here's 2 words, follow me. And so I think sometimes as coaches, we would tell our athletes, hey, you got to surround yourself with the right people. But if I'm a new coach and I walk into CPA, I've also got to have my antennas up going, hey, who are the difference makers? who are doing it really well, who has great retention numbers. Like, I mean, who just has kids on their team that they won't quit no matter what. I'm going to eat lunch with that guy every day, or I'm going to eat lunch with that lady every day, and I'm going to learn from them. And I think sometimes in the coaching profession, like you said, we can come in, and I was guilty at times thinking, hey, we know what to do. We got this figured out. The quicker you can check your ego at the door and realize you don't have it figured out, the further and faster you will get to where you actually want to be. And it's just it's through humility and a willingness to learn.
Well, and you have to be here at CPA. We focus on 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 18 about the unseen. The seen is temporary. The banners, the trophies, they're all temporary, but what we're doing is eternal. So for a parent, if you can see past your child being 18 years old or getting through college at 22, becoming a professional, a spouse, if somehow, some way you can have people walk with you in that to see the vision for the future, that's the greatest part of parenting. And then they can let go of their children to their coaches and educators and allow them to partner with them. It's not putting the arm bar up. It's coach or teacher versus parent. It's all of us working together. If we're working together for the betterment of the student in the seen and the unseen, they're going to have a successful experience and be prepared for the hard realities of life. So we can't just say it. We got to live it out.
That's right. And in a better way, we believe, leadership is all about alignment. And that alignment ultimately it's coach and parent running in the same direction for the sake of the child. It's not coach and parent pulling in opposite directions, both screaming, we want what's best. That's not what's best for the kid. And so we really believe, hey, we got to teach our coaches how to communicate the right things to the parents and like, hey, here's what we're about. Like, we can't be all over the place. And then we've got to get the parent to align with that coach and say, hey, let's do this together. I love the word partnership you continue to use. Tim Elmore said it like this, and you were talking, it made me think of this. I looked it up in my phone here. But Tim Elmore is kind of a generational expert. I mean, I love him. If you haven't read his stuff, he's got some great stuff on parenting, coaching. But Tim Elmore said, the further out I can see. So the further out I can see, the better decision I will make as a parent. And I think some of the struggle that happens is we won't allow ourselves to see, any further out than that one game where the coach benched our kid. And now we're so mad at the coach and we're frustrated in front of our kid. And we mess up the fact that this is just a small, tiny moment in the big scheme of their life. And if we will handle it the right way, we will cultivate the right things in them. But I thought that was a great quote there. So great insight there for coaches. As an AD, you've dealt with parents of every, from every sport to every age to I mean, you've been all over it. What's a piece of advice for the parents out there listening as an administrator? And if you're a parent out there listening, here's what I want you to know. I am 100% confident in saying this. What Coach Ellson is about to speak, you can take it to the bank, because I know his heart. I know what he wants for people. And I beg you to yield to this instruction, no matter what it is. And I say that before he even speaks. We haven't predetermined this. What's one bit of advice you would give to parents as they navigate this journey with their child, with the coach, with the AD, with the community, whatever?
Allow the student or your child to work things out with their coach. Teach them, and I wish I had a better way to say this, Heath, but teach your children to fight their own fight. Because if you are constantly bailing them out, eventually they're going to get to the age and at some point where they're not going to have you there to bail them out. So I know for my wife and our children are now 32, 29, and 26, that it wasn't perfect. There were issues, but we tried to teach them to work it out on their own, to respect the teacher, to respect the coach. So if they can work that out, that's to their benefit. And then, just be patient. Give the coach some grace. They're not fighting against your child. They're not against your child. They're trying to put the best team on the field, on the court, on the mat, whatever it might be. They're trying to set the entire team up for success. And so most coaches, if not all, that's truly their heart's intention. So give them the benefit of the doubt. And I was thinking about this too. Coaches study each other. So as parents, I would want them to know we have coaches that shadow another coach because they're trying to see the great things that that coach may be doing in their program so that they can apply that or implement it into their program. So if we have teachable coaches, that's inspiring as a parent. Well, if I see a coach being teachable, I want to be teachable as well.
Man, so good. And one of our modules in our parent education course, when it talks about coaches, and I think this is a misconception, is that, listen, your football coach at CPA, there's no way he can make all the right decisions, because what's right for one set of parents is completely opposite of what's right for another set of parents, because they both think their son should be the quarterback starting on Friday night. And they both probably have valid reasons. But a coach's job, and this is, as parents out there listening, man, this will liberate you. A coach's job isn't necessarily to make all the right decisions, but it's to make the best decision he or she can based on the information that's currently available. It's why it's much easier to call the right play once I know the previous play didn't work. I mean, I had new information. And so I'll be honest, there's times as a coach where I truly made the best decision I thought I could. And then once it happened, I was like, well, I wish I would have made the other decision now, because I had new information. And so what a great term you mentioned, like, let's be willing to give some grace to those that are leading. I mean, I think we live in a culture right now where, it's so easy to point out everything that people are doing wrong that we miss so many things that people are doing right. One of the things that I've challenged myself with as a industry leader or influencer is, when I go to a gym, I try to find people doing it well. And like, if I see a coach really doing it well, I will email that athletic director or principal and brag on that coach. If I see a player that went out of their way to do something, we were at Knox Catholic a few weeks ago. Their student section was awesome. They knew our girls' names. They were riding them. I mean, it was never derogatory, never hateful. It was beautiful. Those kids helped clean up the gym afterwards. They all embraced us. They were thankful. Guess what? That AD's getting an email. I want to brag on those students. Like, parents, don't spend all your time looking for what the coach is doing wrong and miss all the things they're doing right. It's a miserable way to live. And so, man, let's extend some grace, and the coach will probably be willing to extend more grace your way as well. That's right. In those situations.
Well, and as you're talking, you're making me think about, I don't know if you've seen the movie Chariots of Fire or know anything about Eric Little, but Eric Little ended up dying as a prisoner of war in an internment camp during World War II. And he got separated from his wife and 3 children. Well, he never did see his youngest daughter, but he was allowed in that internment camp to write a 25-word letter once a week. So one thing I would encourage, if the parents are looking for ideas or an exercise, and I don't think it's really, a best practice to do it in season, because the coach may think, oh, you're just doing this so my baby will get the playing time. But when a season is over, if a parent would take time to write a handwritten note, you don't need a gift card, but those handwritten notes are so treasured in a culture where everything's on social media, everything is on email. And I think the email is a great idea, but even taking that a step further, just a little bitty, take a second, write a note, just to know you thought of me and you cared. Those are keepers. And I hear ADs and coaches talk about when they get handwritten notes, they're of high value. And you've coached, you know that feeling.
Oh, man. And you know what? We say it's true of kids, but the human race in general, man, we just want to be validated. I just want to be appreciated for the work that I'm doing. And so if I'm a parent, I need to seek opportunities to do that for my child's coach. And if I'm a coach, seek opportunities to do that for the parents' children. One of the things that I always say, and I learned this from a coach in Atlanta, Georgia, she said that what she does, even in her classroom, is that she will send emails and to the parents and CC the kid. Hey, just want you to know that Mike, man, what a pleasure he is to have in class. And, we talk about culture and buy-in.
Yeah.
That's how you get buy-in, man. It's not by posting 5 values on a whiteboard or, having a parent meeting at the beginning of the year and asking them to work concessions. When you have an organization where the majority of the people are seeking to validate one another in a positive way, it just creates like a learning environment for growth and overachievement. I mean, those teams just overachieve. And so whether you're a parent, whether you're a coach, whether you're an athlete, man, take the time to say thank you and validate those people that are investing and pouring into your life.
Well, how about this novel concept? If we're encouraging others, aren't we going to give them courage? And if
That's
a parent is encouraging a coach, isn't that going to positively empower the coach to create a positive atmosphere for the team that they're coaching?
Absolutely.
I mean, it really can be boiled down to that simplicity simple of a mindset, if you will. And, but you got to be intentional about it, and you got to remind each other about it. So
that's right. I love that word intentional, because it's so easy to get busy and it's not that you don't care, you just miss it. And so we've got to have a strategy almost every day. Like when I go into a gym, like I said earlier, I'm trying to find the person doing it right so I can praise them. And so coaches have to go into practice that way. Parents, look for what your coach is doing well. Take the tiny bit of time it will take you to send that thank you. And the ripple effect of those types of actions, man, they change this world for good. In a day and age where there's so much negativity and so much division, a little bit of intentionality and gratitude and encouragement, we just change this world for good. And
that's right.
it fires me up. So last question here. I mean, you've been an AD again for a really long time, more than most that are listening to this call. What would you say to encourage other ADs out there listening? Maybe some best practices that you've seen, maybe some things you do on a weekly, monthly, daily basis, but how would you encourage them to continue to press on to make a difference in their coaches, their parents, and their athletes?
Well, first thing comes to mind is I would call it the bat phone, but when I pick up my bat phone, there's only very few people that I can call that I truly trust if I'm having a hard day or I need some internal advice. So who's on my bat phone? Who can I pick up and call? Who can I cry out to if I'm hurting? Who can I celebrate with where it doesn't sound like I'm patting my back or beating my chest? Who's on your bat phone? You need 2 or 3 people that you can really count on that live in the trenches where you live. Second thing is, we mentioned this earlier, be a lifelong learner. For guys like Scott Carroll and I, the NIAAA has a leadership training program where there are 52 4-hour courses about athletic administration. It changed the direction of my career in 2003 when I first joined the NIAAA. And I've taken now over 50. Some of the courses I've taken have been retired, Heath, which cracks me up. But if we're going to ask our coaches to go to coaching clinics, to read books, to network with other coaches, we better be setting the example as the athletic director. So for me, it's like 1 Timothy 4:12 is be an example is the primary focus. And I learned that at an FCA camp in 1981 that said stand tall. That was the theme of FCA in 1981, stand tall,
Wow.
the fictional theme. And I've never forgotten it. Look at that, all those years, almost 40 years later, and I'm quoting that verse and that theme to you. So again, I've got to be a lifelong learner. I love good books. I'm not in my office right now. I'm actually in Coach Ingle Martin's office, but if I were in my office and I could show you my bookcases, I would show you bookcases full of books that most of them I have read from start to finish. And I'm like, what's the next great book? How do I get better? And we have found that books, Heath, are a great connector from one AD to another. What have you read lately? Oh, I love that book recommendation. I'm gonna go read that myself. And so that's when I see great ADs, I see them sharing ideas like that, and also see them demonstrating what it means to be a lifelong learner.
Man, Coach, such good information. And what a picture for us that have the privilege and great responsibility of leading the next generation. What a picture. That term, just stand tall. Man, not stand proud or stand arrogant, but to stand tall and to be, I mean, almost overwhelmed with the ability, privilege, responsibility of shaping the next generation and what this world's going to look like, because that next generation includes our children and their children's children and their children's children. And like, sometimes I think we can get so caught up in this world of athletics that we forget it is so much bigger than just that. And that area can be a great training ground for so many other things. And so, man, what a just a ton of great advice for so many people out there that are wanting to get better. Continue to be a lifelong learner. Continue to stand tall. Last question before we end. You talked about reading. Give us one or two books.
Well, how about, can I give you a couple of authors?
Yes.
Well, John Gordon, and hopefully
Okay, I
most
love
of the
John.
people
Yeah.
around here, John Gordon. And I'll tell you why I love John Gordon's books. And he just wrote one with his wife on relationship grit,
Yeah.
which I haven't read yet. Can't wait to read that one. But anything by John Gordon. And then my favorite American author is Pat Williams, and he was the vice president of the Orlando Magic. He's written over 100 leadership books. One book that the title stands out is Leadership Excellence. My favorite book he's ever written is called Character Carved in Stone, and it's about the virtues from West Point. And so there's a short video that you can Google, Pat Williams, Character Carved in Stone. It's a 2 or 3 minute video of him at West Point, walking around Trophy Point and talking about all the great character qualities of all the generals and different leaders from West Point. It makes me chills. I'm even talking to you. But John Gordon, Pat Williams, Tony Dungy, the mentor leader, Quiet Strength. I love Coach Dungy. And, those are just off the top of my head of where I would encourage people to go.
We're not going to run out of resources to grow.
That's right.
We are not going to run out of resources, but make an investment there each and every day. I always tell coaches and administrators too, it gives you fuel. You know, it almost, when you're reading, it energizes you. It gives you things to talk about in the huddle and to mention in parent meetings, and to, if I'm sending out a weekly email to parents, it may be something I read that morning that is just a line of encouragement for everyone involved in my organization. So as Carol Dweck said, that growth mindset is so important. And Coach Ellson, man, I just want to say thank you for the difference you make. I mean, I've heard about you. I've got to interact with you just a little bit, and over, it's the same thing that people say. And it's just a man of character and integrity, and to be in it this long and to still be energized to do it well. And I know there's been seasons. Listen, this season may be a season of exhaustion as we walk through all of the things we're faced with today. But listen, it's also a season of opportunity. With every challenge, there's an opportunity to learn something new, to grow in a new way. And I just want to applaud you and thank you for the difference you make in the students' lives there. And I want to say, as a dad of 4 children, man, it's a privilege to have men like you in my kids' lives. And I'm so grateful, and I'm appreciative of the difference you're making. So, man, to all of you out there listening, I hope that today you've been encouraged by Coach Ellson and the truths that he shared with us. On behalf of A Better Way Athletics, again, our mission is simple: is to restore the joy of sport for parents, coaches, and athletes. And when I rub shoulders with leaders like Coach Ellson, it truly does restore the joy in me and cause me to be motivated and encouraged to go out and make a difference. If you want to know more about us, visit us at abetterwayathletics.com. We have a virtual training platform for parents, coaches, and we want to make a difference in the lives of those involved in the sport industry. And we believe that it starts with the leaders. And if we influence the parents and we influence the coach, the beneficiary is that athlete whom we say we care so much about. Thanks so much.